Okay, back for my third 4-pound piece of clay. Should have had the video running because it was rather problematic. I was coning up and it had a very big twist in it. And then as I was bringing it down, it completely came off and there was a big air bubble in the bottom. So, it just happens sometimes. So I got it centered, coned it up and down, and got it compressed. So this one's going to be fairly wide and shallow because when I have problematic clay, that's usually what it ends up being. And I still can feel a little bit of air in here. I think it's probably more from my fingerprints, my thumb, and trying to pick up the wet clay and recenter it. But just compressing it back and forth a little bit so it's wider than my third one. I'm going to go a little bit lower so the whole thing is about the thickness of my finger. So. Being careful not to squish this outside edge. With the same amount of pressure, so when you start in the center, you need to ease up the pressure a little bit because here you're pressing against all this clay. By the time you're out here, you're only pressing against a little bit. And if you press too hard, you end up squishing the outside edge. So I'm going to start out with this. Pretty smooth and flat. Whoops, there's a big spiral. And that's about as thick as my finger. Just take my ribbon, smooth this off, helps compress it a little bit more. Now I can take this and open it like I did on my first two, which, as you saw in the last one, it's hard to keep that clay from raising up in the center and coming off. So what I'm going to do instead is slow my wheel down a touch. I'm going to clean up sort of all of the goopy slop at the bottom edge here. Maybe actually bring this just a touch thinner out here. I think I pushed it in, made it thicker. And then I'm going to take my thumb. I have a very thin sponge here. I'm going to let it ride on there. It mainly because I'm right on top of the bat pins, and it's going to be hitting my thumb. So you don't have to have a sponge under you, so I'm going to take the sponge and my thumbnail, maybe I'll use just right on top of the bat pins. So I'm going to use my wooden knife and just hold it really tight, 2 hands, slide it in under there, trying not to hit those bat pins. And I went in about that far. Is that the thickness of my thumb? So I've sliced it off the bottom. Put a little bit of liquid under there because it's pretty dry. And then I can go in and just with my thumb now a little easier, raise that up. And this was also 4 pounds of clay. So the more clay you leave in the bottom, the less you have to put in the walls, obviously. But it sure looks like a lot less clay. Move that off. And now I'm just going to take this edge and do a couple raises. bring this into a fairly wide, shallow bowl. Whoops, that was careless. I just pushed the side out. Now it's very wonky. Slow my wheel right down, see if I can recover that. So it got pretty thin right there because I pushed against it rather carelessly. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking my middle finger here and kind of pushing against the whole wall and pushing that bottom in, trying to make it round again. Yet keeping the wall from flopping out. So now it's just kind of trying to save it. So relax and let go. You can see this getting fairly floppy. So I think I'll just give it a little bit of curve and call it good so it doesn't collapse. Maybe it'll just be a good deep dish pie baker. So supporting the outside, careful not to dig into the bottom, and smooth off the inside of this wall. Not even going to try to get a curve this time. Basically, it's a shallow cylinder, flat bottom, fairly vertical sides. I don't think I can get a curve this time because it's just too thin right here at the base of the wall where the wall meets the floor. But sometimes the clay wants to be something different than what we plan. Press the bottom. And I think I will call that good. I'm going to clean up the rim. And it can still be a nice shallow baking dish. I'm not sure I like that any better. All right, and that would be my cue to call it an evening. Drop off of there. Be curious to see if there is an air bubble in the bottom that re-emerged. All right,